Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for joining us for the next installment of Listening to the Wind, IWSA's weekly interview series. And I'm here today with two gentlemen from HHx Blue, Olaf Danckwerts and Orestis Schinas. Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. I'm just going to quickly introduce Olaf and Orestis. Olaf Danckwerts studied German law, is a licensed attorney, working for 25 years in the business and finance banking sector. Most of his career, Olaf has been working in international banks and credit departments. In the past, he's had a strong focus on corporate financing, loan restructuring, project finance, and during the last few years, ship finance. During the shipping crisis, he was responsible for loan portfolios of more than 3.5 billion US dollars. So I know where to come for a loan. With HHx Blue, Olaf established a marine tech and fintech company together with Professor Orestis. So Orestis is a professor of shipping and ship finance and head of the Maritime Business School at the Hamburg School of Business Administration, HSBA, since 2008. His professional career includes large corporate projects such as IPO and advanced research and business development assignments in the finance, shipping, and port sectors, and has provided his services to private and public entities in Europe, Africa, and the GCC, as well as to international organizations. Schinas work focuses on the commercial and financial aspects of maritime ventures, while he retains a keen interest on sustainable business development. His expertise on financing greening is the core business of HHx Blue 2, a young yet dynamic firm that develops financial solutions for greening and the blue economy. Last but not least, Schinas is the permanent representative of the Union of Comoros at the IMO and IMSO. So I think from those two profiles, we're in very good hands to be talking about ships, financing, and green technology. So I'm going to hand it over to you, gentlemen, for your presentation, and I'll see you on the other side.
Hey, gentlemen, thank you very much for handing over to us and for the kind introduction, Gavin. As HHx Blue, we have been established in 2018, and we are concentrating with our services on competitive financing based on innovation to attract investors in general for the maritime industry. We see a strong demand for the adoption of the changes and also, of course, for the adoption of new technology. Finally, it's about handling the challenges by the 21st century with 21st century financing solutions. So this is what we are looking for. We would guide you in a very brief and short way through the services and through the background of HHx Blue. So in a glance, we serve on the one side project initiators, and on the other side also the investor side, because we focus on bridging the interests of both parties here and to increase the attractiveness of investing by an increase of transparency, and on the other side to increase the attractiveness for potential borrowers by finally offering a broader access and a smarter and leaner procedure to them. So here right now we show that we use innovative financing solutions for the investors to increase their profit and competitiveness. Thereby, it is very important that we are independent. We are working on our own. We don't belong to a bank. We don't belong to an insurance company or anyone else. So we really offer independent services and are able to offer the best possible solutions. We have an international network and a broad setup of experience. We support in general new buildings, second-hand vessels, and of course, restructuring, retrofit, greening, and recycling. We have a very strong focus on everything around retrofit and greening, as we see that this is something where all the innovative elements can contribute very much. Thereby we combine elements out of the fintech world with conventional business, finally to increase the attractiveness. Our solutions are very competitive. For example, we are right now developing, this is not already operational, we are developing solutions that enable financing even in a second ranking of a vessel. Further, we are developing solutions where you can get use out of different, let's say, risk baskets to prepare and structure a very competitive financing solution that on the other side serves the different expectations of the investors when it comes to risk appetite and these things. Thereby we have a broad and international setup of funds and yeah, structuring, and I think attractive structuring is also part of it. When it comes to greening, we see greening is definitely the decisive factor in the competition, and the importance of greening is there. It is not growing, it is already there. So we see new environmental regulations that impact on the one side the maritime sector, and on the other side also the investors, and of course the operations. So don't underestimate, for example, that so-called ESG criteria, environmental social governance criteria, have a very strong impact on the investor side. They have to be covered by them, and the projects have to qualify along these criteria to be attractive. By this, the investors that are looking for investments in the maritime sector, they directly ask how green are the projects. Thereby, we are in an early stage, at a starting point, because the measurements and the definitions of green are still open and are under development. In general, we support the clients in a financially holistic way to set up a new green shipping business or to transfer the existing fleet into a green era of part. So we offer also advisory parts there. Partners and projects we are involved reflect what we right now presented already. Of course, we are part of the International Windship Association, and as a member of the IWSA, we have the pleasure right now also here to contribute. We are cooperating in an EU project. This is the VASP project, Wind Assisted Ship Propulsion. In this project, on the one side, we directly try to promote wind propulsion solutions in the regulatory world and environment. On the other side, also, we are preparing financing solutions and also tools that enable the users to evaluate if investments and financing of wind propulsion technology is attractive for them. On the other side, you can see that we are very much involved in the area of the fintech sector. So we are cooperating with the Hanseatic Blockchain Institute, with Fintech Hamburg, as we are based in Hamburg and a part of the community here. Out of this, we get a lot of attractive and innovative tools enabling us new ways of financing, structuring, and offering advantages to investors. So our company's strength is financing green solutions, and therefore our independence is the advantages of our clients. We build bridges between undercapitalized markets, segments, and investors' interests out of a financing market. Innovation keeps the cost low, openness for different kinds of partnerships, and of course, we cover all financial regulatory requirements. This is self-explaining. When you compare the services offered by HHx Blue with others, we have, for example, a very high degree of global market coverage. We have a very high degree of efficiency, cost and feasibility tests. We have structures that enable investors to trade the loans, to trade the investments. All this is compared to the bond market, financial advisors, and traditional lenders, a strong advantage. In our value propositions are in general to be a modern, let's say in general, a very modern, lean and smart service provider, as it has to be the way today. We are located in Hamburg, and whenever there is a question to our services or a need of financing or a request regarding investments, we would be pleased to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olaf. That was an excellent presentation. And I think really boiled down so many of the key aspects of financing a project and to a very easy to understand. Even I can understand. That's great. So we've got a little bit of discussion time now, and there's a few aspects of obviously of the finance world, but I'm just wondering about the markets firstly. Which markets do you see as the prime ones for wind technologies? For example, which shipping segments, which geographical regions are likely to be the growth areas? Orestis, you need to unmute. Yeah.
So I think that the potential for wind-assisted solution is huge. And I think that the ships that will get the benefit of wind-assisted technologies are mainly ships like very large bark carriers or tankers, very large ones, where you have space on deck to install all sorts of technologies, Flettner rotors or rigid sails or whatever. And for these ships, even if you manage to save 2 or 3% of the total consumption, let's say, bill, this is a huge, it's a huge savings in terms of money. So I think that the first segment is, let's say, very large ships with sufficient deck space and very large voyages. The other segment that I think that it will get the benefit is ships that are engaged in short shipping, in coastal trades, and especially in northern part of Europe because of the wind and the, let's say, general environmental conditions there. So you have wind that is more or less of, let's say, sufficient strength, and you have also wind that is not seasonal, but practically throughout the year. These solutions can also apply to smaller ships. So I think that there is a huge potential. The only segment that I don't think that it can really, so practically all segments can get the benefit, so something like 80%. But the only segment that I think for the time being challenging is the container segment, because it is very difficult to find, let's say, space on deck, or other solutions like kites, for example, have not been proven yet. So I'm not excluding the segment, but generally we have to, let's say, get some very first, let's say, positive results.
Olaf, you want to come in?
I would like to add something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, just a short comment where I see also, or where we see also it's not the large segment. It's more a segment, for example, when you think about ferries that are trading in liner services is exactly the areas mentioned by Orestis, because we think that in the sector of the ferries in the liner service, it is also relatively easy to find a good amortization, because usually you can sell the greening also to the passengers on the ferries.
Right.
So I think this is something also attractive.
Yeah, no, interesting. What I'm getting a lot from ship owners is that there's a real uncertainty in the market at the moment on where decarbonisation is going, what regulation we're going to have, sort of that regional, global concern. Do you see that worry or that uncertainty in the financial markets as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because so far in the shipping industry and generally all risks related to technical developments in shipping have been very clear. They have been based on let's say very clear, very well-defined calculations and technologies. So, for example, in the past, consider MARPOL. When we got, let's say, the introduction of double hull tankers, or let's say the segregated ballast tanks, or whatever, all of these technologies, all of these technical developments, they were very, very well defined. I'm not saying that all of them were positive, or let's say there were not better solutions available. But what I'm saying is that the regulation was clear. Right now, and especially in decarbonization, we don't have a clear regulation, and at the same time, we might have regional measures like the ones we have in Europe with gold plating, or in other port zones, like for example in Singapore, and that is really detrimental for the international shipping. So the owners are pretty much right when they say that the regulation is not clear. This concern is, let's say, then practically forwarded and communicated with the financiers. The financiers definitely need, let's say, more solid technical base to support their projects. And I think that the worst thing that can happen to shipping is to have a regional patchwork of decarbonization rules and limits. And that would be really a big hit for international shipping.
Yeah. And Olaf, I just want to ask you, there's that uncertainty around the regulation and these other aspects that we've just been talking about, or Russ has just been highlighting. In the legal frameworks and all of the sort of contract law, etc., things like charter agreements, these types of things, are there any significant barriers there or significant challenges there? And is there an uncertainty about how that's going to change over the next few years with decarb?
What we see already in the first projects where we are involved in is, for example, that the first pressure is coming also from the charterer side, from the employment side, that they are looking for green vessels, however you define this green. But at the end of the day, as long as you have, for example, someone who has the freight, who is looking for chartering in vessels and is listed somewhere in the stock exchange, his investors will always ask him about his ESG conformity, about finally his green story behind, because the investors in general, as already described by Orestis, they are very carefully there, and so there is pressure at the moment. It's not a lot of pressure, but there is something going on there, increasing the demand for green vessels in the employment. Although, to make this also clear, the charterers are not willing to pay a premium for greening. So,
right. So you've got a bit of a contradiction there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's really interesting. And Orestis, coming back to you, what is the availability of capital? Okay, that's a critical thing. What is the availability? What is the level of availability of capital that can apply to green projects or green technologies when all the risk elements are in place, what are we looking at?
There is a very
substantial
simple, there's a very simple answer. Yes, there is available capital. Yes, there are sources, there are financial houses, lenders, funds, all sorts of, let's say, investors and let's say money supplying sources willing to finance greening projects. So at the same time, however, we have to understand that all these houses, they have to follow very strict compliance rules. So practically what these guys are allowed to do is to finance a conventional project with green characteristics. So if you, let's say, apply with a conventional, let's say with all the boxes ticked for a conventional project, like the usual collateral that you need, the equity, the employment security, insurance securities, and all of this stuff. And at the same time, you have a project where in comparison to the market, your ship is saving fuels, is consuming less fuel per ton mile or whatever, then your project is attractive and then your project will be financed. I can say that many sources will compete to finance these projects. Is the market, let's say, ready for including environmental criteria when selecting projects? The answer, once again, is not yet, but it will, because the very same way as we have a set of corporate governance rules, financial rules and criteria, we're going to have also some more environmental, let's say, rules. So I think
is that connected with the sort of Poseidon principles that we're seeing and
in my view, and I think that's also HHx view, Olaf is also sharing this view, the Poseidon principles are really watered down. I mean, we need more, let's say, more and better defined, clarified criteria how to, let's say, finance a green ship, because there is nothing like a definition. So if you ask me what is a green ship, I might say, okay, that is, let's say, a ship that consumes less vis-a-vis a conventional one. But what is a conventional? How do you define, let's say, the current state of the art, and how do you define green? So I think that the Poseidon rules is a very good start. It's a kickoff point, but it's not sufficient. We need better rules and better criteria for financing. But if there is money available, capital, absolutely. I mean, no doubt about it.
Okay, no, that's good. And Olaf, I'm gonna bring you in on this one. So that's one change that we could have to finance shipping aspect. Are there any other changes, especially in connection with uptake of wind propulsion technologies? Are there any other barriers that we really need to see coming down?
So what especially also Orestis, what we at HHx are working on are really some more attractive solutions regarding financing structures. So there are not so many barriers. At the end of the day, you have always, when you want to implement wind propulsion technology on board of a vessel, you have always to take under consideration that usually you have already first lien mortgage on the vessel, and then the investor has the issue with financing, for example, a Flettner rotor that is put on the vessel, and to secure his investment there. And so this is a little bit a challenge, but we have in the past already prepared solutions, and we are on our way to roll out further solutions that will enable investors in investing wind propulsion technology, even if already a first lien mortgage might be on the vessel. And so this is a question of, let's say, a risk handling. And further, you have always to consider, for example, that the repayment of this investment should be, if possible, connected with the outcome let's say, productivity. But this is something where Orestis, I suggest, tells you more about, because he's much more involved in it.
Right. Okay. So, Orestis, would you like to pick up on that?
Not really, but
Well, okay. We don't have much more time on this section, so I'm going to take us a little bit earlier in the process. So, you know, a lot of technology developers, a lot of our members are in the sort of late, early prototype stages, putting together projects, really looking for development funds, or they're moving through that valley of death, coming through pre-market, which is very expensive, and with no guarantees of income coming for 18 months, whatever it may be. I've got two parts of the question here. So, what advice can you give them to those projects, and also, when in the process should they be engaging with, say, a platform like your own? Should they be engaging with you earlier in the process, or as they're entering that sort of pre-market?
I think that there is no answer how to cross the valley of death. Of course, there are. I mean, we could use some, let's say, philosophical terms like you should cross it with prudency, and and you have to be prudent. You don't have to spend money. Cash is king, and all this usual stuff that everybody knows. But I think that especially for technology providers, unless there is something like a prototype in place, unless there is something like tested technology, it is very difficult for us or for any financial advisor to sell this project to any other lender or owner. So you need something like a tangible result. You need something like, let's say, a first case where the other owners can pick up and they can take a risk. Because let's face it, there is, of course, the risk of the technology provider to develop the technology, and the technology will deliver. But at the same time, you have also the risk from the owner side, and that is the selection risk. So the owner has a portfolio of options. For example, he might opt for a wind-assisted technology, or for hydrogen, or for whatever other technology. So unless there is, let's say, a very clear case, and unless there are, let's say, tangible results that you can sell to the, let's say, other investors or to other operators, then it's quite difficult. And I think that in the keyword for all these small companies, including us, of course, is synergy. Synergies and a network approach. I mean, there's no need to be so competitive. It is better to share and survive rather than dominate the market from the very beginning. And I think that, especially in the wind-assisted technologies, you have seen many of these examples. So you see that many companies that follow synergetic, collaborative models, they survive and then they flourish, while other companies that have a very, let's say, closed approach, very isolated approach, very dominant approach, they were practically doomed.
That's a very interesting points. Okay, so gentlemen, we're coming out of the discussion section into the quick-fire Q&A. I'm going to be very strict with you now. You have a one-sentence answer. You can do a yes or no answer if you wish, but I think a little bit more information than that would be great. It's just a 5-minute section. So, and you can choose whoever wishes to answer this. Please go ahead. The first one's maybe a bit controversial because you might have different answers. But why did you set up HHx? And why is wind propulsion a particular interest?
Olaf takes the first part, I take the second.
Okay. We set up HHx because we have seen a growing demand for alternative financing solutions besides the existing ones. We have a very strong focus on everything around greening, because we see even a higher demand of financing solutions compared to the shipping sector. And the combination of both fits perfectly into the time connected with digital solutions and innovation.
Okay, very succinct. Orestis, you take the second part then.
Yeah.
Why wind propulsion?
Because it's working. As simple as that.
I agree.
It is working. But if you would like, if you want, let's say, a large answer is because the wind-assisted technology is practically a tool, is, let's say, a set of technologies that can help the industry to, let's say, decarbonize. It is not only a transition solution, it can be also a solution, part of the final, let's say, technologies that the final set of technologies we're gonna use on board. So I think that it is not only a very promising, it is a working solution, and is a solution with a potential to get further evolved and combined with other technologies.
Okay, that's great. This again for both of you. What is the most challenging question you're asked by investors, and why? Why is it?
Olaf?
When do I get my money back?
Okay. And why is that so challenging in this situation?
Because many investors have really burned their fingers in shipping. And to be absolutely honest, in shipping and ship finance, you can see some specific cycles where money is, let's say, offered, the supply of money is really huge, and that creates overheating of the market, and this is the recipe of failure. And many houses, especially in the northern part of Europe, have really fallen in this trap again and again. So every 20 years, you have something like a cycle like that, especially in Europe so far.
Okay, okay.
And if I may add one point.
No, please, Olaf. Yep.
I think we can see similar developments already in China, but they are not discussed so openly.
Okay. And so how do you answer that question? When will I get my money back?
Orestis, this one is yours.
Yeah, we say to the investors, as long as you follow our advice and as long as you are, let's say, really, if you carefully listen to what we say, yes, I mean, the probability of getting your money back is overwhelming. It's not, okay, let's say, it's not fictitious.
So they're going to get it all back fairly quickly.
Yes, but you know, we have all of us, we have, I think, a very good track record, and the people that we cooperate with, they have an excellent track record. And of course, project failed, but at the same time, you can see that they might fail due to extraordinary, let's say, terms and circumstances, okay, not because of, let's say, initial flow or design issues.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take this onto a bit of a macro scale now and say, if you could make one change in the current situation in shipping, you know, we've got lots of regulations, we've got EEDI, we've got EEXI, we've got the CII coming in, we've got a whole raft of different regulations, things happening in shipping. If you could make one change right now, what would that be? Yes, please. The rest is okay.
A device let's say, a device on board similar to the AIS, to the automatic identification system, that reports the emissions and the chemical properties of the emissions. Let's say to have an analysis of the pollutants real time to all flag administrations and to a portal. The technology is there. And in my view, what we need is a very, very clear, let's say, threshold from the IMO. Guys, decarbonize, I don't know, 30% or 50% or 70% or whatever in the next 5 years. There is no, let's say, special interest. What is the technology you have to install on board? How are you going to operate your ship? You are free to do whatever you like as long as you have, let's say, you consume less than a threshold and you emit less than the threshold. Very clear.
So like an emissions black box.
No, it's an emission white box because everybody can see where the ship is. Okay. It is like the AIS. There is criminal liability attached to that. So the very same way as you have criminal liability for the safety of the ship, then you have criminal liability for the environmental protection. clear cut.
So
And
total transparent.
The technology is there. You can transparently do whatever you like. You can report it. And this is, let's say, I think fair. All other discussions, if we follow market-based measures, operational, technical, whatever, I think that feeds consultants and universities and does not serve the needs of the industry. The industry is clear, -20, -30. This is politically decided, but we have the technology to do that. I cannot believe that we can send the people, let's say, on Mars, or let's say technology on Mars, and we don't have the technology to measure the pollutants from a ship.
Fair
let's
comment.
say in the English channel. Sorry.
Yeah, fair comment. So I'm going to ask Olaf the last question in this one. What are your next steps with HHx? Is there anything you could share with us, your next step?
So one of our main next steps is definitely that we will start a fund, and this fund will enable us to serve different needs of financing. And this is on the one side second-hand financing, which is where still we have a very strong demand in the market, and definitely this added and combined with elements to increase the efficiency of the vessels to make them greener. And this is where we are working very hard on, and the support of wind propulsion technology in this case has a very strong focus in our business case.
Excellent, excellent. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to give you the opportunity now. You've got you might want to take 30 seconds each. You have a 1 minute kind of concluding statement that you can make to the viewers. So whoever would like to deliver that, please go ahead.
Olaf?
Orestis, please start.
First of all, Gavin, thank you very much for the invitation. What we would like to, let's say, communicate with all the IWSA in the wind assisted technologies community is that there are solutions, there are financial solutions, means and tools to support them. And there are people who are willing to listen, understand, and sell further the project. And we feel as part, we feel as, let's say, not only a member of this community, but we feel that we belong to this wave of green, let's say, technology people. And we do that because we believe it. It's not only because it is a commercial opportunity. At the same time, we can help, we can assist, and we can bring into contact operators and technology providers, and we can design solutions that are meaningful and reasonable. So, of course, we can discuss about regulations, but we do not have the power to change them. We do not have the power to discuss them, let's say, in terms of, let's say, decision-making process. However, we have the understanding how to apply them and how can we, let's say, make the best out of it. And I think that we can help the community, and we are willing to do that.
Olaf, would you like to add anything?
I fully agree. We offer balanced ways of supporting in different ways financing solutions in the shipping industry, and we feel committed.
No, that's fantastic to hear, because I think, you know, for a lot of members and a lot of people in the industry, you know, the finance side of things can be very cold. It can be a very hard area to understand. So,
give us a call. I mean, yeah, you can complain, but I mean, it is, you see, it's like going to the doctor. I mean, yes, I have I don't know, my tooth is giving me horrible pain. Yes, sure. But unless you call the doctor, unless you visit the doctor, you're not going to get the proper medicament.
So the final epitaph, call us.
Give us a call, I don't know.
Olaf, Orestis, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for, you know, explaining some of the issues and some of the intricacies of ship finance for us, but also, you know, that presentation of what HHx is doing and what it's intending to do, and that platform, I think, is a really fascinating area. And I have a feeling you guys are going to be very busy as the momentum continues to grow. So I'd like to thank you again.
No,
absolutely.
Thank you,
So
Gavin.
thank you for joining, listening to the wind, and to all of the audience. I really appreciate your time, and I've certainly learned some things today. So thank you very much for that. If you do have any questions, I know that Olaf and Orestis are more than happy to answer those, and you can also call them as well. And if you want to find out more about wind propulsion technologies, of course, you can drop me a line or check out our website at www.wind. So fair winds to everyone. Please stay safe and well, and signing off. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.